If you spend, let's say, 30 hours grinding away at a massive, epic video game, you start to feel pretty confident.
Oh, yeah. You feel invincible.
Right. You master the controls, you learn how to pair, you manage your inventory perfectly.
You've got it all figured out.
Exactly. You finally beat that grueling first major boss, your hands are sweating, you sit back, just, waiting for the credits to roll.
Yeah.
But instead of credits, the screen fades to black, the words "tutorial complete" flash across the screen. And you realize with this mix of absolute terror and exhilaration that the actual game hasn't even started.
Which is just, it's devastating.
It is that feeling, that incredibly jarring rug pulled out from under you moment. That is exactly what happens when you reach the end of your own psychological scaffolding.
It's profound shock to the system, really.
Yeah.
You spend your whole life collecting tools, assuming that whoever has the biggest toolbox wins, only to discover that the universe doesn't care about your tools.
Right.
It only cares about what you are actually building.
And what we are building is the focus of today's show. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
It's good to be here.
If you are listening to this, consider today your graduation day.
Yeah, big day.
We're looking directly at you because we are taking a massive nostalgic walk down memory lane through an entire curriculum of source material that you have been wading through.
It's quite a journey.
On the table between us is a towering, frankly intimidating stack of notes, texts, diagrams, and equations covering the entire mathematics journey.
It's a lot of paper.
It's so much paper. We are going to navigate the three distinct eras of this architecture. First, the foundational Arabic chapters, 0 through 31.
The scaffolding.
Right. Then the deeply unsettling Roman numeral chapters, I through X. And finally, the rigorous, almost mathematical architecture of the alphabetic chapters, A through Z.
And to keep us grounded in this massive landscape, we really need to view all of this through 4 specific lenses.
Okay, what are they?
Review, realize, relate, and reconcile.
Review, realize, relate, reconcile.
Right. We are going to review that initial foundation you built, realize the sudden shock of awakening the metamind.
Which is a big one.
Huge. Then we'll relate all these lofty, pristine concepts to the incredibly messy reality of your daily life.
Because it gets messy.
So messy. And finally, reconcile it all into a functional, executable equation.
Okay, let's unpack this. But before we get into the algebra, let's talk about the mission.
Yeah, we should set the stage.
Because looking at this stack of papers, it would be really easy to mistake this for a self-help seminar.
Oh, completely.
But the text aggressively pushes back against that framing, doesn't it?
It completely rejects it. I mean, if a listener dives into this material looking for, 5 quick habits of highly effective people, they will be not just disappointed, but entirely overwhelmed.
Yeah, they're going to have a bad time.
Right, because self-help fundamentally operates on the premise that you are a broken machine that needs fixing.
Like you're defective.
Exactly. It sells you replacement parts. But this curriculum operates on the premise that you are not a machine at all, you are an architect.
I love how the foundational texts explicitly state that the universe is completely silent on the question of meaning.
Yes.
It's not hiding under a rock.
Yes.
Meaning is constructed quarter second by quarter second.
Brick by brick.
Right. But to build it, we have to start with part 1. The scaffolding and the shock.
The foundational stuff.
Let's look at the Arabic chapters, 0 through 31.
So the source material calls this the scaffolding phase.
Okay.
It is entirely sequential, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 31, and it is broken into 3 distinct blocks of accumulation.
I want to dig into what that accumulation actually looks like, though. The first block is awakening, chapters 1 through 10.
Right.
When I read that, it sounded a bit mystical. What does awakening actually mean mechanically?
Mechanically, it is simply the interruption of autopilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah. Imagine driving home from work and suddenly pulling into your driveway with no memory of the last 15 minutes.
Oh, I've done that. It's terrifying.
Right. Your body drove the car, but you weren't there.
Wow, yeah.
Awakening is the startling realization that you have been driving through your entire life like that. You are realizing you are asleep at the wheel.
So once you realize you're asleep, you move into the second block, which is sensing, chapters 11 through 20.
Yes. Sensing is developing the sensory bandwidth to actually feel the forces acting upon you.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, before, you might have just yelled at your partner because you thought you were angry.
Okay.
Sensing is the capacity to pause and realize, wait, I'm not angry at my partner.
Then what is it?
I have a tightness in my chest because my boss undermined me 6 hours ago, and I am displacing that energy.
Oh, wow. So you are mapping the internal terrain,
Precisely.
which naturally feeds into the third block embodying chapters 21 to 31,
Right.
taking that internal map and actually walking the territory in your daily life.
Exactly.
Now, this all sounds incredibly logical, makes perfect sense.
It's very structured.
Right. I build the foundation, I pour the concrete, I frame the walls.
You're accumulating skills.
But then I was looking through the source files, flipping through the pages of the text.
Oh, here we go.
You read chapter 29, 30, 31. You turn the page, fully expecting chapter 32.
Naturally.
You are primed for the next skill to add to your belt. And instead, there's a weird interlude page, and the next chapter is just, it's Roman numeral I.
It is arguably the most brilliant formatting choice in the entire curriculum.
I honestly thought it was a typo the first time I saw it.
A lot of people do.
Why completely break the numbering system? Why not just call it chapter 32?
Because if it were chapter 32, you would treat it like chapter 32.
Which means what?
You would assume it was just another tool to throw in the toolbox.
Oh.
The psychological mechanism behind Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3 is linear progression.
Like climbing a ladder.
Right, they imply a staircase. You climb a stair, you leave it behind, you move to the next one.
Okay, so what do the Roman numerals do?
They signal a terrifying shift. The text is telling you the staircase is over. You are done accumulating.
Wait, I'm stuck there. What do you mean I'm done accumulating? I'm supposed to just stop learning new things.
You stop accumulating concepts and start inhabiting them.
Inhabiting them. Okay.
The Roman numerals represent a shift from a staircase to a spiral.
A spiral.
Yes! You don't climb a spiral once, you walk it continuously.
Oh, I see.
Each time you come back around to Roman numeral I, you are encountering the exact same core truth, but you are meeting it at a higher altitude.
Because I've grown.
Because you, the observer, have fundamentally changed.
Wow.
You are shifting from knowing about the architecture to being the architecture.
So the training wheels come off.
Completely.
I'm moving from the tutorial into the actual game.
Yes.
And to survive that game, the text introduces this critical framework, the meta-mind.
A very important concept.
It uses this grand theater metaphor that I think we need to explore.
It's a vital analogy because it separates the observer from the observed.
Right. So imagine your mind is a theater. Up on the stage, under the bright lights, you have the actors.
Okay.
These actors are your surface thoughts and emotions. One actor is your grocery list.
Sure.
Another actor is the sheer panic about a deadline.
We all know that one.
Yeah. And another actor is the memory of an awkward joke you made 5 years ago.
They're putting on a play.
Right. But the meta-mind is not on the stage.
Where is it?
It's sitting in the dark in the back row.
Oh.
It's the audience, and crucially, it's the director.
The director.
It is the awareness that contains the stage, the actors, and the script itself.
But when I read this, my immediate thought was, when I am panicking about a deadline, I do not feel like a director in a comfy chair.
Of course not.
I feel like the actor getting pelted with tomatoes on stage. How do we actually get off the stage?
By identifying the script,
The script.
the actors on your stage are almost always reciting what the source material calls legacy software.
Meaning code that is out of date. Exactly. You are running a psychological script that was written when you were an incredibly vulnerable 14-year-old trying to survive middle school.
Oh, wow.
A script like, if I am quiet and accommodate everyone's needs, I will be safe.
Which makes sense for a middle schooler.
That code worked beautifully when you were 14. It kept you hidden.
Right.
But now you are a 35-year-old manager, and that exact same legacy software is still executing, preventing you from advocating for your team.
That is so true.
You have to ask yourself, are you just a user of your mind's interface, endlessly swiping away notifications?
Just dealing with whatever pops up.
Right. Or are you the administrator who can actually rewrite the back-end code?
But rewriting the code requires us to stop misinterpreting the error messages.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a really dense term in the text. Dimensional homonymy.
It's a mouthful.
I need to explain it like I'm 5 on this, because it sounds like quantum physics.
Let's break the words down first. A homonym in language is when two words sound identical but mean entirely different things.
Like the bark of a dog and the bark of a tree.
Precisely. In the architecture of the mind, dimensional homonymy means that the exact same internal experience,
Like what?
let's say a sudden spike of intense anxiety,
Okay.
That experience can mean two entirely different things depending on which dimension of your mind is interpreting it.
Okay, give me a concrete example.
Mm.
I feel a spike of anxiety in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
What does the user dimension think, and what does the administrator dimension think?
The user dimension, the actor on the stage, feels that anxiety and says, I am broken.
Yeah.
Something is fundamentally wrong with me. I am a defective machine, and I need to suppress this feeling immediately.
That's the default reaction for most of us.
Right. But the administrator dimension, the meta-mind, looks at that exact same physical sensation and interprets it completely differently.
What does the admin say?
It says, oh, this is just a dashboard gauge flashing red. My current environment is out of alignment with my core values. The machine isn't broken. The sensor is working perfectly.
That is massive.
It changes everything.
It's like the check engine light coming on in your car.
Exactly.
You don't take a hammer and smash the light bulb because the light is bad.
Right, you don't blame the light.
You thank the light for giving you data, and you look under the hood.
You move from moralizing your emotions to utilizing them as data points.
Okay, so this brings us to part 2. The emojiverse reality check.
The reality check?
Or, as we established in our themes, the relate phase. Because it's one thing to be sitting in a quiet room, feeling like a serene theater director reading dashboard gauges.
It's easy in a quiet room.
It is.
Right.
But it's an entirely different thing when you take that pristine spiritual architecture out into the world.
The real world is the ultimate stress test.
Right.
The source material refers to the messy, mundane, completely unpredictable reality of modern life as the emojiverse.
I love that term. It perfectly captures the chaos.
It really does.
Because if your elaborate meta-mind practice falls to pieces the second someone cuts you off in traffic, it's not a foundational practice.
No, it's not.
It's just an intellectual hobby.
Precisely.
And the text provides these 3 hilarious, painfully relatable case studies to prove this point. They call it the Triple Chaos Special.
These are great.
Let's start with case study 1, the IKEA bookshelf.
The text actually subtitles this, The Leaning Power of Regret.
Yes. Okay, so picture this.
Set the scene.
A listener has just finished reading chapter 20. They are feeling incredibly empowered.
Very zen.
They decide they're going to physically manifest their new integrated mindset. They buy an IKEA bookshelf.
A classic mistake.
They stand in their living room, look at the flat pack box, and declare, I am not just building furniture. I am an architect of meaning. I am applying the 11-step operational flow.
They are attempting to set what the text calls the event atom.
The event atom.
Yes, they are trying to dictate the terms of reality.
Exactly. Step 1, they take absolute ownership. I am a master of particle board.
Confidence is high.
But then they open the box. The instruction manual is just a cartoon drawing of a confused guy. The Allen wrench is stripped.
Of course.
And worse, they realize they're missing dowel 4B.
The dreaded missing hardware.
And within 20 minutes, their grand architectural framework completely collapses.
Shatters.
They are sitting on the floor, sweating, swearing at a piece of Swedish fiberboard.
We've all been there.
Why did the system fail? I set my intention. Why didn't reality bend to my will?
Because you ignored the fundamental mechanics of context.
Context.
Yes, you cannot build a house out of blueprints.
Think about what a blueprint is, right? It shows you the walls, the roof, the doors.
But a blueprint can't keep you warm in a snowstorm.
Ah.
The text calls an intention or a concept a capacitant shadow.
Meaning it has the capacity for substance, but it's just a shadow until it hits reality.
Precisely. The person in the IKEA example tried to force their internal content, their fantasy of being a master builder, upon an external context that could not support it.
The external context was missing a wooden dowel.
You cannot mantra your way out of missing hardware.
That's a great line.
Forcing internal content while ignoring external constraints is like trying to force spring to arrive in the middle of winter.
So the system broke down because the person thought their intention overrode physical reality.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. IKEA was a failure of trying to force control. But what about case study 2, the 405 traffic jam?
Yes.
Because in this one, the person is actively trying not to control anything. They're trying to surrender.
The trap of spiritual bypassing.
Set the scene for us.
It's Tuesday at 5 p.m. You are stuck in bumper-to-bumper gridlock on the freeway.
The worst.
You remember your metamind training. You take a deep breath, loosen your grip on the steering wheel and say, I am the climate, not the weather. I yield to the traffic. I am a monk in a Honda Civic.
That sounds like perfect architectural surrender. I mean, what's wrong with
It
it?
sounds perfect, yes, until the environment tests that surrender.
Right. Suddenly, a BMW without a blinker violently swerves into your lane, missing your bumper by 2 inches.
And what happens?
You slam on the brakes. Your enlightened surrender shatters in a millisecond.
Gone.
You roll down the window, lay on the horn, and scream, "Use your blinker! I am the storm!"
Exactly.
Why did yielding fail?
Because the yielding was performative.
Performative.
The driver was using the framework of surrender not to actually accept the traffic, but as a defense mechanism to avoid feeling the profound irritation of being trapped.
Oh, they were just pretending not to be mad.
Right. And the BMW driver acted as what the text calls a threshold guardian.
Wait, a threshold guardian? That sounds heroic. The guy in the BMW is just a reckless jerk. How is he a guardian?
He is a guardian not of morality, but of your psychological threshold.
I see.
He exposed the boundary where your theory ended and your actual capacity began.
Wow.
When he swerved, it triggered a wince, a sudden, sharp pain point signaling that your internal state was not aligned with reality.
So what should the driver have done when they felt that wince? Just smile and let the guy hit them?
No, the text introduces the noticing protocol.
What's that?
Catch, name, locate, check, adjust.
Okay, walk me through that.
You catch the anger, name it. I am furious, locate it in your body. My jaw is clenched, check it against reality. My car is safe, but my ego is offended, and adjust your posture.
But instead of running the protocol, the driver's ego violently snapped back into control.
Right. They let a random BMW dictate their entire emotional state for the next 3 hours.
Okay, I can see how physical objects and random strangers can trigger us.
Sure.
But let's look at case study 3, the ultimate final boss of the emoji verse. Thanksgiving with Aunt Carol.
This moves us into Chapter K, relational mathematics.
Yes. So, you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table. You've been practicing your metamind awareness all year.
You're ready.
And Carol leans over the mashed potatoes and fires the classic interrogation. Still single. When are you going to get a real job with benefits?
Ouch.
Now, our integrated listener decides they aren't going to get mad. They are going to elevate the conversation.
A noble goal.
They look Aunt Carol in the eye and say, "Aunt Carol, I am currently occupying the autonomous variable position. You are attempting to make me a responsive variable. Let us find the third in this relational field."
And Aunt Carol just stares, utterly bewildered, and says, can you just pass the gravy?
And the listener loses their mind and yells, "The gravy is a capacitance shadow, Carol."
It's a fun image.
It is, but wait. If the whole point of this architecture is to build better relationships, to find a shared third space, why does the text say the listener failed here? Weren't they trying to be integrated?
They were suffering from a massive error called field confusion.
Explain field confusion to me.
Field confusion is expecting a level 3 conscious, co-creative dialogue from a level 1 unconscious broadcasting environment. And Carol does not know she is in a mathematical equation of meaning.
No, she definitely doesn't.
She is just running her own legacy software about what success looks like.
So the listener in this scenario wasn't actually trying to connect with Aunt Carol.
Not at all. They were using mathematics jargon as a shield to protect themselves from vulnerability.
Wow.
They were throwing intellectual bricks to build a wall.
So what is the alternative? Just retreat. Let her insult your career. That doesn't sound very empowered.
The alternative is the compassionate boundary.
How does that work?
You don't demand that the environment match your internal architecture. You simply embody your architecture regardless of the environment.
Yeah.
You smile and say, "Aunt Carol, I'm really happy with my path right now, but I'm not discussing it today. This turkey, however, is phenomenal."
Ah. You don't try to force a stream to flow uphill?
Exactly.
You don't demand transformational depth over mashed potatoes?
Right. Your architecture is a structure you live inside of. It is not a weapon you swing at your relatives.
Okay, this brings us to a massive pivot in our deep dive, the reconcile phase.
This is where it gets real.
We've seen that vague feelings of surrender fail in traffic.
Yes.
We've seen that throwing jargon fails at Thanksgiving. We need actual precision. We need a map that works when the pressure's on. And that brings us to part 3. Metamatics, the alphabetic chapters A through Z.
This is where the curriculum becomes incredibly rigorous.
And here's where it gets really interesting. When I first opened this section and saw actual equations, I panicked a little.
A lot of people do.
I thought, do I need to do algebra to reach self-actualization? But it's not math for the sake of math, is it?
No, it is a pseudo-algebraic concept mapping system.
Okay.
Think about why we use math in physics. We use it to map invisible forces like gravity so we can predict how objects will behave.
Right?
Mathematics borrows that rigorous structure to map the invisible psychological forces of your life.
Because I feel bad today is a terrible map. You can't navigate with it.
Exactly. I feel bad gives you no variables to adjust.
So let's look at the foundational formula the text introduces. It looks like a fraction. A over B integrated with C over D.
Right.
Visually, it's A slash B, circled plus C slash D. I need you to break this down painfully slowly for me, starting with the slash symbol.
Let's strip away arithmetic entirely. The slash does not mean division.
Okay.
It means filtered by, shaped by, or constrained by.
Got it.
The variable on top is the iterator, and the variable on the bottom is the delineator.
The iterator and the delineator. Give me a real-world translation of those.
The iterator, variable A, is the content. It is your action, your skill, your energy, or your intention.
Okay, and at the bottom.
The delineator, variable B, is the context. It is your physical environment, your social constraints, or the resources available to you.
Okay, I want to test this. Let's say I am completely miserable at my job.
Sure.
In the old way, I just say, I hate my job, I guess I'm a failure, and I feel paralyzed. How do I map this with A slash B?
You isolate the variables. Is your misery stemming from variable A, the iterator?
Meaning, do I actually lack the skills to do the job?
Right. Are you not putting in the effort?
Well,
Or is variable A perfectly fine, but variable B, the delineator, the toxic corporate culture, the micromanager boss, is actively suffocating your skills?
Oh, I see. If my skill, A, is high, but the environment, B, is toxic, then the output is still misery.
Yes.
But the solution isn't to read another self-help book to improve my skills. I don't need a better A.
Exactly.
I need to change B. I need a new job.
Precisely. The equation formalizes your intuition.
It gives you an actual diagnostic tool to figure out which knob on the soundboard needs turning.
That's a great way to put it.
And what about the circled plus symbol in the middle?
That denotes integration. It shows that multiple relationships are happening simultaneously.
Right.
Your work life, A slash B, is integrated with your home life, C slash D.
They don't exist in vacuums.
Exactly. They synthesize into a total lived reality.
But none of this works without what the text calls the most important variable in the entire system.
The unity operator.
The unity operator. The number
Yeah.
one. And again, I got confused here. Does one represent my ego, my soul? What is it?
In mathematics, one is simply the position of self.
The position of self.
It is the locus of your agency. It asks, where are you located inside this specific dynamic?
Okay, let's use the manual versus automatic transmission analogy we talked about earlier.
Perfect.
How does one change the equation? Let's look at x slash 1 versus 1 slash x.
If the equation is x slash 1, the 1 is in the delineator position, the foundation.
Okay.
That means you are managing the variable x. It is iterator first. You are driving the manual transmission.
You were deciding when to shift gears.
You are wielding x.
So I am wielding my anger. I am directing this project.
Exactly. But if the equation flips to 1 slash x, the variable x is now the delineator.
On the bottom.
Yes. It is shaping you. That is delineator first.
So you have put the car in automatic.
You are yielding to x, letting it dictate the parameters.
I am letting the music shape my mood. I am yielding to the wisdom of the group. Neither of those is inherently bad, right?
Right. Pathology only occurs when you get stuck in one position and forget you have the power to shift gears.
Which is why the source text provides the weekly position of one audit.
A very useful exercise.
Let's walk the listener through that audit.
Mhm.
It takes 20 minutes on a Sunday night. What am I actually doing?
You sit down with a piece of paper and write out the 5 most significant interactions or emotional states of your past week.
Okay.
And you simply identify where you place the 1.
So let's say I look at my week. Interaction 1, team meeting at work. I steamrolled 3 people because I wanted my idea to win.
That's x slash 1. You are dominating the context.
Right. Interaction 2 error, an argument with my spouse. I immediately folded, didn't state my needs, and just apologized to keep the peace.
That's 1 slash x. You let their mood dictate your reality.
And if you track that over several weeks, a meta pattern emerges.
Exactly. You might realize you are chronically trapped in x slash 1 at the office.
Always over-controlling, exhausting yourself.
But you are chronically trapped in 1 slash x at home.
Always under-asserting, eroding your boundaries.
Yes.
So the corrective action for next week isn't just a vague resolution to be a better person.
No, it is mathematically precise.
At work, my goal is to introduce 1 slash team. I intentionally put the car in automatic and let a coworker drive the meeting.
And at home.
At home, my goal is boundary/1. I intentionally shift to manual and wheel to preference.
You are no longer just mapping your life. You are actively redesigning the source code.
Which leads perfectly into arguably the most elegant, powerful equation in the entire curriculum.
The XO equation.
X plus 0 equals XO.
This is a beautiful convergence of mechanical action and formal linguistics.
So if X plus 0 equals live transformation, what are these two variables?
The X represents the operator, the purely mechanical action.
Like what?
Physically typing and sending an intimidating email, initiating a difficult conversation, signing a lease.
So it's the raw physics of doing a thing.
It is?
But the text is clear that action alone isn't enough.
No. Because if you force yourself to send that scary email, the X, but your internal narrative remains, I'm a terrified imposter who is going to get fired.
Which is how I usually feel.
Right. If that's the narrative, you have enacted mechanical change, but you haven't transformed. You will still feel incredibly small.
That is where the 0 comes in.
Yes. The 0 represents the linguistic narrative, the identity, the story of who is taking the action.
So I am the kind of person who creates the conditions for my own courage.
Exactly.
But if you only have the 0, if I sit on my couch all day repeating affirmations, I am a powerful, courageous leader, but I never actually send the email.
Well, then you are engaging in fantasy.
Yeah.
Narrative without action is delusion. Action without narrative is mechanical drudgery.
But when you synthesize them, X plus 0 equals XO, they create a reciprocal feedback loop.
Yes. The action provides the physical proof that the narrative is true, and the narrative provides the psychological fuel to sustain the action.
That is brilliant. It completely reframes how we tackle our to-do lists.
It really does.
So we have these microequations, sending an email, yielding in a meeting, but how does this scale up?
That's the big question.
How does this math build an entire life? This brings us to part 4, scaling the architecture.
We must look at the 11-stage transformation cycle.
Because transformation is not a straight line.
It is a spiral, as we discussed with the Roman numerals.
And every time you go through this cycle, it has a measurable magnitude.
Yes.
The text gives us the cycle magnitude formula. Magnitude equals current challenge divided by current capacity multiplied by identity shift.
Let's break that down.
I need you to explain the math here, specifically the multiplier at the end.
Think of it like a workout. If the physical challenge is lifting 50 pounds and your current capacity is 50 pounds, the ratio is 1. You are maintaining.
Okay.
If the challenge is 100 pounds, the ratio is higher. It's difficult.
But that's just the mechanical X.
Exactly. The real multiplier of transformation is the identity shift, the 0. If you survive a massive challenge but you don't update your narrative, if you still tell yourself, I just got lucky, I'm still weak, the multiplier is 0.
So the magnitude of your growth is capped.
But if you allow the challenge to rewrite your identity, I am someone who can lift heavy things, the magnitude compounds exponentially.
The compounding effect is what blew my mind. The source text says that by your 5th time through a major life transformation cycle, you can process it in a quarter of the original time.
It's incredible.
How is that possible?
Because you have developed meta-pattern recognition.
What's that?
The first time you go through a major breakup or a career change, it feels like the end of the world because you're lost in the content.
You're just reacting.
The 5th time, you still feel the pain, but your meta-mind recognizes the structure of the transition.
You know you are just in stage 4 of the cycle.
Exactly. You trust the architecture to hold you while you grieve.
You stop fighting the weather and just put on a coat.
That's a great analogy.
And this ties into a massive paradigm shift the text introduces about goals.
A very controversial section.
I have been told my entire life to set goals, build a vision board, write it down, let the goal steer your life. But the text says goals offer absolutely no guidance on the journey. I pushed back hard on this when I read it.
It is a controversial stance, but mathematically sound.
How so?
We treat goals like a GPS system, thinking they will tell us when to turn left or right.
But they don't.
No. A goal is just a destination point. Saying, I want to run a marathon does not tell you how to train on a rainy Tuesday when your knees hurt.
The text calls a goal the emergent root square. What does that mean?
In mathematics, a root square is an emergent property. You don't do a goal.
You don't do it.
A goal is simply the inevitable, materialized outcome that emerges when all of your daily variables, your A/B expressions, your XO actions, integrate perfectly over a sustained period of time.
So you don't focus on the marathon.
Oh.
You focus on the daily equation of putting your shoes on.
Precisely.
And importantly, you don't do this alone, which brings relational mathematics back to the forefront. Chapter K, the algebra of two.
Yes, because you are not an isolated server operating in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You are part of a network.
The text gives us this equation for relational transformation. R equals 1 plus attunement times safety times mutual visibility.
Right.
If all those multipliers are high, what happens?
It mathematically proves that in a healthy relationship, 1 plus 1 does not equal 2.
What does it equal?
It creates the third.
The third being a shared entity, a shared purpose or space that is independent of either person's ego.
Exactly.
When you have high attunement, you actually hear each other. High safety. You aren't going to attack each other's vulnerabilities and mutual visibility. You see each other clearly without projecting. The relationship itself becomes an amplifier.
The third does the heavy lifting for both of you.
Okay. We have reached the summit.
The apex.
Apex of the curriculum, the final pages of the alphabetic chapters. The text calls it the full expression, but I call it the final boss equation.
It really is.
Listeners, I am staring at a PDF of an equation that is so massive, so dense with brackets and nested fractions, it looks like a chalkboard in a Harvard physics department.
It is visually intimidating.
It's like open parenthesis, curly bracket, open bracket, A over 1, circled plus 1 over B, and it just expands outward from there.
It's a lot.
I am not even going to try to read the whole thing out loud because we would both get lost.
We definitely would.
But you don't need to recite it to understand what it's doing. You explained this to me off-air as the math of the inversion kick.
Yes.
Walk us through what an inversion kick is, because this is the holy grail of the whole system.
An inversion kick is the ultimate test of your psychological flexibility.
Okay.
It tests whether you can completely flip your orientation to reality in real time, under pressure, without your identity collapsing.
Okay, give me a grounded example.
Let's use an argument with a spouse. You are in the middle of a heated debate about finances.
Classic.
You are currently in an X/1 position. You are wielding facts. You are driving the argument. You are the iterator.
Right.
But suddenly, your spouse starts to cry.
The context just violently shifted.
Exactly. If you cannot perform an inversion kick, you will stay locked in X/1 and you will keep hammering them with logic while they are crying, causing massive damage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But if I can perform the kick...
If you can execute the full expression equation, you instantly, seamlessly invert your position.
How?
You shift from X/1 wielding logic to 1/X yielding to their emotional state.
You drop your argument.
You soften your posture and let their need for comfort dictate the next moment. You become the container instead of the projectile.
And the most important part is that I do this without feeling like I lost the argument or compromised my identity.
Right.
My core self remains perfectly intact while I flip the variables around it.
Precisely. You are no longer experiencing accidental oscillation.
Being violently thrown back and forth by the chaos of life.
You are engaged in strategic alternation. You are mapping 4 variables simultaneously across 2 different agency orientations.
You have officially moved from being an actor getting pelted with tomatoes to the director, to the composer of the music itself.
You are governing the inversion. You are the architect.
And that is the complete journey of the source material.
It's been quite a ride.
From the early Arabic chapters, where you were just trying to wake up, through the terrifying friction of the Roman numerals, where you realize you have to walk the spiral forever, into the rigorous, beautiful geometry of metamatics, where you learn to graph your own becoming.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've reviewed the scaffolding. We've realized the power of the MetaMind operating system. We've related it to the chaos of missing IKEA hardware and Aunt Carol's Thanksgiving interrogations.
And we've reconciled it all with these elegant, executable equations.
If we pull back and look at the absolute biggest picture this curriculum paints,
What is it telling us?
it is telling us that we are not at the mercy of a pre-recorded fate,
Right?
but we are also not wandering in a meaningless void of random chaos.
We are participants in a dynamic co-creation.
Yes, the universe is silent on the meaning of your life because it's waiting for you to declare it.
It will not hand you a purpose.
You are the architect. Meaning is constructed brick by brick, choice by choice, quarter second by quarter second, equation by equation.
It is the ultimate transition from autopilot to conscious command.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener.
Something to take with you.
We've talked extensively today about mapping your life with variables, A, B, C, D.
Right.
We've talked about defining that powerful unity operator, the one, as your core identity and placing it intentionally in every single interaction to shape your reality.
To take control.
But if you are truly the architect, if you are the one writing the master equation of your life, what would happen if, just for tomorrow, you intentionally wrote a blank variable into your daily map?
A blank variable.
Imagine looking at your calendar tomorrow morning and drawing a completely empty set of brackets, a literal void in your schedule, or a pause in your next conversation.
Just open space.
Instead of forcing your identity, your one, onto every single moment to control the outcome, what if you left a space completely blank? What if you created a deliberate, terrifying, beautiful void, just to let the unpredictable chaos of the emojiverse fill in that variable for you?
That's a profound challenge.
You might just find that when you stop forcing the math, the universe writes an equation far more interesting than anything you could have engineered on your own.
Beautifully said.
Keep diving deep. And remember, you might be stuck in traffic on the 405 or sitting at the table with Ann Carroll, but you always have the power to draw a new blueprint. We'll see you next time.